guys, so I'm here to record my birthday. So yeah, Keira's awake, so if you do hear any shouting, it's from her because she's in a bit of a mood today and she just keeps shouting and being really loud. So yeah, I thought I'd do my birth story and get that out there. It has been nearly 2 weeks now, so thought I might as well get it up and sorted before I start recording anything else. So birth story, right? It started on Friday the 10th. Friday the 10th of July. I'd woken and I'd not felt any movements. Obviously the last time I'd felt movements is the night before. So I'd felt movements before I'd gone to bed and gone to sleep sort of thing, and then we woke up Friday, I didn't feel anything. So yeah, Friday was pretty much just a get up and go, you know, breakfast, dressed, out the door sort of thing, because we had loads to do, so we just had to do it. So I'd put like not feeling any movement down to just generally being busy and not having the time to sit there and look out for movements as such. By the time I got home it was probably about 11 o'clock and I sat down and I thought, oh, I haven't really felt any movements, so I had something to eat and I had a cup of tea as well. Normally a cup of tea got baby moving and really like I could make noticeable movements after I had a cup of tea, but there was nothing this time, so I had a fizzy drink and there was still nothing. So I tried an ice lolly and there was still no movements, so I rang the hospital and they told me to go in and they would run a CTG trace. So we got into the hospital at about between 12 and 1 o'clock. I can't remember exactly what time it was, but it was between 12 and 1 o'clock we got to the hospital and they ran a CTG trace, and I was on there for a good 45 minutes. So I'd only probably felt about 3 or 4 movements, which obviously isn't as much as I would normally have felt. So we went back to the waiting area and the doctor called us through, so we went round and spoke to the doctor, and she said that although they were happy with his heartbeat, but they weren't, you know, they could see that I wasn't happy with the movements, and obviously I was already overdue as it is. You know, I was almost a week overdue. They said that they would probably look into inducing, but they'd have to give me they'd have to do an examination of my cervix first, and obviously it was down to my choice if I wanted to be induced or not. So she examined me, and even though I'd already had 2 sweeps previous from my midwife, there was still no change in my cervix. She said that given my previous birth history, my body probably wasn't likely to go into labour itself, and it probably never will when I'm pregnant, as obviously, because I'm not just going to give birth if I'm not pregnant. But yeah, she said that my body's probably not ever going to kickstart labour itself. So she said that the options were I could either go home and leave it and wait it out. I had my induction booked for the following Friday, because obviously I was meant to be having the home birth, so I was booked in for the induction for the following Friday in case nothing had happened. So yeah, she said I could either go home and wait it out, but then there's always that what if, you know, if something is wrong and that is causing the reduced movements, you know, the movements that I'm not feeling. Or she said that I could just go ahead, she could book me in for the induction and we could go ahead for the induction. She advised that the safest option would be to go for the induction, because then they can at least monitor baby's movements, monitor its heartbeat, make sure everything's okay as such, and if there's something is wrong, then obviously it's safer to get him out sooner rather than later. So she left the room and she let us sit down and have a chat about it. as much as I did want my home birth, and you know, because you get it stuck in you get the idea of your perfect birth in your mind, and that's how you want it to go. I also wanted my baby here, you know, safe, and I didn't want anything bad to happen to. We decided to go ahead with the induction. The doctor came back in and asked what we wanted to do, and you know, we told her that we'd be happy to go ahead with the induction. So she booked us in for the Sunday because there was no beds for on the Saturday, but she also said to ring Saturday morning just in case. You know, because people are going to labour all the time, and there could have been, you know, a bed could open up on Saturday for us. So we went home, and I started, you know, just making sure that my hospital bags were packed, because obviously I'd only packed like bare minimum in my hospital bags, just because I wasn't planning on being in the hospital for a birth. So I went home, packed extra clothes, because I know how long and boring inductions were. Saturday morning rolls around, and I had to ring the induction suite at 8 o'clock, I think it was. So I rang smack on 8 o'clock, and they said that there was nothing at that time. Hiya. They said there was nothing at that time, but I was to ring back in the afternoon to see if anything had changed. So we went over to my dad's and killed some time at my dad's. At about 12 o'clock I rang them again, and they said that they'd ring me back within 5 minutes. We waited 2 hours for them to call, and they didn't, so we had to keep pestering them and calling them to find out what was going on. So we called them, and they eventually did call us back, and they said that yes, they did have a bed for us and we was to go in. So I said my goodbyes to Keira and left. We got to the hospital and they booked us in, and then they took us round to our bed and, you know, told us what was going to happen and stuff like that, and told us that because we had to be induced in the induction suite for reduced movements, that we'd have to be on delivery suite, so that they could continuously monitor baby to make sure everything's alright and that nothing happens during labour. So at about 5:45 they said that they were going to start off my induction with the prostin pessary. With Keira I was induced with the ProPess pessary, which is the 24-hour pessary. They check it after 24 hours. The prostin is 6 hours, so they check it every 6 hours. Ow. So at 5:45 they checked my state. They gave me an intern. They did an examination, and my cervix hadn't changed. So the midwife gave me a sweep and gave me the pessary, and they said that they'd be back at midnight to check. So as soon as we was off the trace, we was walking around. We took a massive walk around the whole of the hospital. We'd done laps of stairs, we was up and down stairs, and then I just couldn't be bothered to walk anymore, and I thought, well, if labour's going to happen, it's going to happen whether I'm walking or not. So we came back to the bed, pulled the curtains over, and got a birthing ball, and I just sat on the birthing ball. We played cards and we watched Jeremy Kyle. So but nothing happened. Come midnight, nothing had happened. I'd not even felt a twinge. I didn't even have any backache. There was nothing. So yeah, I was absolutely certain that I was going to have to go for another 6 hours. So some guy came in at midnight and stuck me on the trace because they need to check baby's heartbeat. So I was on the trace for half hour to 45 minutes, and they was happy with the trace. The midwife came at 2 o'clock in the morning, considering I was meant to be checked at 12. She came at 2 o'clock in the morning to check me. Wasn't really fair because obviously I was tired and I didn't want to go to sleep and have to be woken up for an internal. So she checked me at 12 o'clock. My cervix had dilated another centimetre, so I was now 2 centimetres but I could stretch to a 3, she said. She said that I probably would need another pessary, so she took the other one out, and she said that she gave me a really good stretch and sweep. And then she went off, and then as soon as she'd shut that curtain, I'd started getting contractions, and I didn't know it at first. It just felt like I had a really bad constant period. It wasn't a dull period ache, it was in your face period ache. Yeah, it lasted like that for probably about 10-15 minutes, and then the contractions started coming regularly. They weren't like bad, but they were, you know, I knew they was there, I could tell that they was there. They didn't take my full attention, but they were taking my attention. So Darren told the midwife, and she said that, you know, that's good. She came back and she was just like, you don't need the other pessary, like, I think this is you starting now. So I got on the ball and I started bouncing around the ball, got my TENS machine out, stuck my TENS machine on, which helped wonders. If you need help during early labour, get a TENS machine, they are fantastic. So I got my TENS machine out, and I'd made a playlist of like music that I find relaxing, and I stuck that on. So at about 3-4 o'clock I thought I'll go for a bath in case anything does happen, you know, I want to be clean. So I went for a bath, and that didn't really help with the pain. Like, I didn't find it helped with the pain, but it did sort of slow the contractions down. Like, they were coming 2 to 3 minutes for about 30-45 seconds, and then once I'd got in the bath they were like 5 minutes apart for about 45 seconds, so they'd slowed them down. By the time we got out of the bath and back to the bed, I'd probably spent about a good half hour in the bath, and then we got out of the bath, came back to the bed, and they were still going. They was coming at about 3-4 minutes, still 30 to 45 seconds, nothing longer than that. They just sort of slowly started pacing themselves out further and further. Rather than come closer together, they was going further apart, so I thought, oh, I'm probably just having, you know, early labour stop and start sort of thing. So come about 6 o'clock in the morning, they was about 8 minutes apart, so I spoke to the midwife and she said, just get some rest, because you've been up all night, get some rest, and you can always try again in the morning. She said, like, if you need another pessary, we'll give you another pessary, but we'll see how you go. But she did say that I was on the waiting list, like my water's broken. She said that there were a few other people due on the list as well, so she doesn't know when it'd be, but it would happen at some point. So I was sleeping, well, I was dozing in and out between my contractions, and then when I finally did feel like I was dozing into a sleep, the curtain opened and there was a student midwife there, and she said that she was taking us down to delivery suite to have my water's broken, and I checked the time and it was probably about 7:30, 7:45 sort of time. So she took us down to the delivery suite, we got in there, they stuck me on the trace and ran a trace for half an hour, and they said that they was going to break my waters, so they'd done an examination and my cervix hadn't changed since the last midwife had done it, so all them contractions hadn't done anything anyway, and I was still having contractions roughly 5 to 8 minutes apart, so they weren't close, they weren't regular, they was just all over the place. I got down, they broke my waters, and there was loads of waters, which is probably why I was measuring slightly big, like for fundal height. So yeah, they popped my waters, and then as soon as they popped my waters, the contractions immediately intensified, like they were really strong. She was just like, oh, once I pop your waters, it's, you know, you're gonna have the contractions are probably gonna get a bit worse, but they're just gonna feel like bad period cramps. No, they were ridiculously painful. She got me to stand up, and I was sort of like leaning over the bed, like they lifted the bed up so I could like lean over it, and that didn't last too long, so they had to get me back on the bed to do an examination. And this was at about 9 o'clock. They yeah, it's over here. About 9 o'clock they gave me another examination, and I was 4 centimetres dilated, so breaking my water's definitely done something. So yeah, I was 4 centimetres dilated, and they deemed me as in active labour. I asked for after half an hour I asked for pethidine, because I was exhausted and I was tired, and you know, the contractions were painful, and I just wanted something to take the edge off the contractions, just so I could have a little break. But she had to examine me first, so she examined me and I was 8 centimetres. So it took me half an hour to go from 4 centimetres to 8 centimetres, which is obviously very fast. Then she also told me that my cervix was swollen, which is probably because I'd done it, you know, I'd dilated so quickly and baby's head was really pushing down. At that point I couldn't handle the pain anymore, so I had gas and air, and then I had the urge to push. And I told them this, and they said, no, don't push, your cervix is swollen, if you push you can cause damage to your cervix. But if you've been in labour and you have noticed that urge to push, it's a bit hard not to. So I was really trying my hardest not to push, but it wasn't happening, and the only thing that you can do is push. And because I was lying on my left side, yeah, I was lying on my left. I thought I was lying on my right side, but I was lying on my left because I was facing away from the door and I was facing down on this side. So yeah, I was lying on my left, and they kept wanting me to turn onto all fours, but it was so painful to turn that I physically just couldn't move. So I just stayed on my side, because that's where I was comfortable, that's where I was happy, that's where I could deal with the pain the most. We was getting along, and it just got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. I kept asking for pethidine. They said that I couldn't have pethidine because I'd progressed too quickly, and that when the baby was born it'd be in their system and they'd be completely knocked out. So obviously that's, you know, I didn't want that to happen, so I quickly dismissed pethidine, and then I just jumped in and was like, just give me an epidural, like, this pain is ridiculous, the gas and air's not helping, I want an epidural. And, you know, to my surprise, they agreed. They was like, okay, yeah, we'll get you an epidural. And they only agreed because it would take away my urge to push, which obviously then wouldn't cause, if I didn't push, it wouldn't cause any damage to my cervix. I called for the anaesthetist, who was in theatre at the time, you know, pretty typical. So I had to wait for him. I don't know how long I had to wait for him to come, but it felt like I was waiting forever. So the anaesthetist come, and he was trying to talk to me through these bloody contractions, and I couldn't even reply. And he kept asking me, you know, because obviously they need my consent, and he kept asking me, and I was trying my hardest to say yes, 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 you know, that's fine, just do it, but it wasn't working. So, but you know, we got there in the end. So I had to, obviously when you have the epidural, you have to sit up and lean forward. So I got up on the end of the bed and I sat there. It took him 3 attempts to get the tube into my back. I don't know why it was taking so long, but I think they was trying to faff on purpose, because I progressed so quickly, and now obviously to have the epidural then would have been, you know, a bit of a failure. So yeah, he eventually got the wire in, and just as he'd put the wire in on the 3rd attempt, not the wire, the tube, sorry, just as he'd put that little tube in on the 3rd attempt, I could feel his head in my bum. Like, I knew that he was coming. Cheese! And I knew that he was coming, so I shouted at the top of my voice, he's coming, like, his head is in my bum. And they ignored it, and I just thought, okay, maybe I'm just making it up. And then I felt it again on the next, cheese! And then I felt it again on the next contraction. And I knew, I just knew then. And I said it again, I shouted at the top of my voice this time so they could all hear. I said, he's in my bum, he's coming, like, you need to check. Careful, careful, careful. I said, you need to check now. So they taped up the tube to my back, and they hadn't even plugged it into the epidural, so there was nothing going in me. Like, you know, pain relief wise. I was still feeling every pain from the contraction. So they flipped me onto my back and threw my legs up in the air, and they was just like, okay, right, she's telling the truth. His head's there. So she was just like, Amy, on the next contraction I needed to push. So I started pushing, and half his head was out. Like, half of his head was out in one push, and on the next push his head popped out, and that was at 10:58. And then I had the next push, I had the next contraction just before 11, and by the time that I'd pushed and he came out, it was smack on 11 o'clock. So he was born smack on 11 o'clock. But obviously I didn't have any pain relief apart from the gas and air, and by the time that it all clicked into cheese. By the time that it all clicked into what had happened, I'd realised I'd only been in active labour for 2 hours. So from 4 centimetres to pushing him out, it was 2 hours. So cheese! So yay! So to get from 4 centimetres to popping him out was 2 hours, which obviously is very quick. And they said that's what, and they said that's why it was probably really painful, and that one doesn't do anything. That's why it was really painful and a bit more traumatic than normal. I need to hurry up now because Joshua's waking up. He was born smack on 11 o'clock with his hand on his face like this, which caused him to graze, obviously inside. I needed stitches for the graze, but other than that I didn't tear at all. And he was brilliant. Like, he came out, he had no problems, he was fine. We asked for immediate skin to skin, so he was immediately on my chest. We asked for delayed cord clamping, they've done that. They had to leave a tiny bit of blood in the cord because obviously they had to check for the rhesus factor because of me being O negative. By 8:30 I was officially discharged. I had my discharge papers. They was happy with me. I'd produced urine, I'd eaten, I was drinking, I was walking around, I'd showered. I was absolutely perfect. There was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't in any pain. I looked like I hadn't even just given birth. I looked like it was just a normal day. Joshua was perfect, there was nothing wrong with him. So they said, yeah, okay, we'll discharge you. So come 8:30 we was, packing our things up and going home. 9 o'clock we was at home, so it was a pretty fast day. Do you know what I mean? Like, most people spend a day, 2 days in hospital. We was in and out. So yeah, that's my birth story, and I've really got to go now because I've got one whingy child here and another one on the floor that needs feeding. So I'll leave it there, and I hope you all enjoyed my birth story, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.